Hi, I'm Bob, and in this video I want to show you Excel's substitute and replace functions. Now, these names sound similar, but the functions work different ways. The substitute function swaps data by recognizing content, and the replace function swaps data by counting characters. Let's go take a look, see how it works. Let's take a look at the replace function first. Now, the replace function will replace text based on where it is in the cell. So the syntax is this. You say equals replace, and because it's a function, you have a parenthesis. And the first argument is what the old text will be. Second argument is what position do you want to start at. Third argument is how many characters do you want to replace. And then the fourth argument is what should the new text be. So for example, let's say in cell A4, it says, I want vanilla, and you want to replace the word vanilla with the word chocolate. So you would say equals replace, look at cell A4, start at the 8th position. Why the 8th position? Because the V in vanilla is the 8th character, right? That includes spaces. And how many characters? Well, the word vanilla has 7 characters in it, and then replace that with the word chocolate. And it doesn't matter if the word chocolate has more or fewer characters. That 7 refers to what the number of characters in the word vanilla. And here's another example. Let's say you have in A4, it says this costs $20, and you want to replace that 20 with a 30. So you'd say replace, look at cell A4, count over to the 13th character. That's the 2 in the 20 is the 13th character. You want to replace 2 characters and then replace 30. And something that's kind of important you notice here is that when you're dealing with text, when you're replacing text, the text that you're inserting has to be in quotation marks. If you don't put it in quotation marks, Excel is going to throw an error. That's just the way Excel functions work with text. But in the second example, because we're replacing a number, that does not go in quotation marks. It's just kind of straight. So let's see an example here. Actually, I'm going to show you a couple of examples. Take a look at what's happening in column A. We have all of these part numbers, and they are 3 sequences of 3 digits each. What we want to do is we want to replace the middle sequence of every part number with 555. So let's do this. Let's go to the top of column B, and we're going to say equals replace. And notice when I just type in the first few letters of the word replace, that comes up. So you know you have the replace function available when you see that little syntax help. So I'm just going to hit the tab key. And now it says, okay, what's the old text? So the old text is what's in cell A4. So I'm going to click that, comma, what's the starting position? Well, I want to start at position 5 because you've got 3 digits, then you have a dash, and then that middle sequence begins in the 5th position. So I'm going to put in a 5, comma, how many characters, how many digits do I want to replace? I want to replace 3 of them, those 3 middle ones, comma, and I want to replace them with 555. Close the parenthesis, enter it, and now I'm just going to autofill it. So now you might be familiar with when you get the autofill handle of dragging down, but if you have more than just maybe 1 or 2 dozen rows, a much easier way of doing it rather than dragging that down is when you put the mouse pointer on the autofill handle and you get that crosshair, just double click, and that fills all the way down to the bottom of the list, whether it's a couple of dozen rows or tens of thousands of rows. And now as I scroll down, you notice all of those middle sequences are 555. Let me give you another example. Let's go to the top of column C, and let's say we decide that we want to replace that middle sequence with 3 zeros. So this is going to be a little different. So again, we're going to say replace. I'm going to hit on A4, comma, still that starting position is position 5, comma, I want to replace 3 characters, just like before, and now I want to replace those 3 with zeros, so I put in 3 zeros and close a parenthesis, but when I hit enter, notice it gives me only 1 0. It doesn't give me 3 zeros. If I autofill that, all of these get just a single 0. And that's just the way Excel deals with zeros. So I'm going to undo that. And let's put the replace function in again. Kind of the same thing. Go to A4, I want to start at the 5th character. I want to replace 3 characters. But instead of putting in just 3 zeros, here's where I use quotation marks. So open up a set of quotation marks, type in 3 zeros, close the quotation marks, close the parenthesis. I'm going to press Control-Enter, hold the Control key down and press Enter so I don't bump down to the next row. And now I'm going to double-click the autofill handle. And there we go. And now you see that we have 3 zeros like we wanted instead of a single 0. Okay, let's take a look at the substitute function. I'm going to go down to the next worksheet here. And also I'm going to give you a couple of examples. And I've highlighted a few of these part numbers because what I want to do here is every time we have a part number where the middle sequence is 555, we want to change that to 888. But we don't want to affect any of the other part numbers. Also, you notice that these part numbers begin with ABC. When we scroll down past row 100, you notice that these part numbers begin with XYZ. And I want to make that change. I want to make that substitute only for the part numbers that begin with ABC. I don't want to change any of those 555s where the part number begins with XYZ. So that just throws a little bit more complexity into it. But I think the substitute function is more intuitive than the replace function. Let's take a look at the syntax before we actually do this. So with the substitute function, we also swap out characters, but rather than doing it by position, we do it by matching content. That's why I think this is a little more intuitive. So the syntax is we say equals substitute, and in the parenthesis, the first argument is what cell or text are we affecting, just kind of like we did with the replace function. The second argument is what is the old text that we are looking for that we want to replace. And then the third argument is what should the new text be. Let's use the same example we used with the replace function. So if cell A4 says I want vanilla and I want to replace vanilla with chocolate, then we simply say replace, look at cell A4, find the string vanilla, and replace it with the string chocolate. That's really all there is to it. So let's go up here to the top of column B, and we're going to say equals substitute. And as soon as I type SU, already substitute comes up as the suggestion. So I hit the tab key. So what is the text I'm putting in is still that same A4, comma, the old text. I'm looking for 555, but I can't just put in 555 because what about all of those XYZs that I don't want to affect? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up quotation marks and I'm going to put in ABC dash 555. By the way, this is case sensitive, so that's why I'm making sure to type it in uppercase. So that's what I'm going to look for, comma, what I want to replace with is, open up quotes, ABC dash 888. Close the quotes, close the parenthesis. I hold the control key when I press enter and autofill it, so I double click the autofill dot. Now these first few, there's no changes because there's no 555s in the middle. Here's a 555, that's changed to 888. Here's another one, here's another one. Now here's one where there's 555 at the end, but it's not changed because we replaced the ABC 555 with ABC 888. And this did not have ABC 555, that had ABC something else. So those 5s are ignored. This one did have the ABC 555, so that's changed. Now let's go all the way down, and there's a whole bunch of these, but now let's go down to the XYZs. So here's 555 in the middle, but that's left alone because we replaced only where it began with ABC and not XYZ. And here's another example. This was left alone. Okay, let's do another example. This one may be a little more simple. Let's say every time we find XYZ, we want to change it to AAA. So again, we're going to say equals substitute. And we want to leave that ABC alone. So, but we're still going to start at that row because who knows what's in there. So that's the text that we're looking at, comma. The old text we're looking for, open up the quotes, we're looking for XYZ and comma. We want to replace that with, open up the quotes, AAA, close the quote, close the parenthesis, control enter. Now this is unchanged. double-click the autofill dot. So all of these ABCs are left alone. Let's go down past row 100, and now you notice that all of these XYZs are now changed to AAA, regardless of whether there's 5s in it or not, right? Because we didn't address that. So the replace and substitute functions work pretty well. They're great, they're handy, and it's not a question of is one easier than the other or is one better than the other. It's just that sometimes you'll need to use one and sometimes you'll need to use the other. It depends on what the circumstance is.